This episode of Nuff Said is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. To get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code Southgate to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
In a world of capes and lunatics, gods and monsters, there are those who defend the world from the threats, both within and without. Are they the GRC, or are they those who fight the GRC? That is the question that we will answer on Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Nuff said. I'm your host, Charlie the Professor Esser, and with me, as always, is my skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Hey, Mozz. Yeah, I made the conscious decision to have my John Walker scruff coming in for this episode, you know?
Dig it.
A little disheveled, getting that twitchiness going. Yeah, so tonight's episode, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. The whole world is watching. John Walker loses patience with Sam and Bucky as they learn more about Carly Morgenthau. Our director, of course, is Carrie Skoglund. Writers this week are Derek Kolstad, Malcolm Spellman, who are written by and created by credits, respectively. Gene Colan and Jack Kirby, along with Steve Epting and Ed Brubaker, get our Sam Wilson the Falcon, Bucky Barnes and Captain America, and Winter Soldier created by credits. Winter Soldier. That's a controversial issue. For those who don't know, Mr. Brubaker has felt that, him repurposing Bucky Barnes as the Winter Soldier, he feels deserves a little more credit than he feels his paycheck resides. But that's a whole other thing. That's about creator rights issues, and it's too complex to get into to this day. I got to tell you, what the comic book industry needs is WGA to organize the big two comic book companies, since they're both part of Warner's and Disney, which already has WGA contracts in place. They need to embrace that, see that is a growth area for fiction writing, and really unionize that organization of that industrial writing. It's what they need to do. Anyway, but that's a whole other bag of hammers. Tonight's episode, let's see here. Tonight's episode, this is the whole world is watching. This has a great opening because it opens in Wakanda. About 6 years ago, where they show Io, and she is reciting the words from the book to cause the Winter Soldier.
But in Wakandan, or is she reciting them in Russian or whatever?
Oh yeah, it's in Russian. It's in Russian. Yeah. So it's the words because it's the words in Russian that he's coded to.
I thought maybe that's how they undid the coding by reciting them in a different language and messing with the programming.
I don't think so. I mean, possibly that's what they did. I mean, I don't know. I don't know Wakandan or Russian, so I can't say for certain which language it was in. I presume it was the Russian, and I'm sure you could go back and see if it matches what Zemo said in Civil War if you had the time in the trolley to do so. From my perspective, though, the idea is just this is Io having him realize that they've broken the program. That you
think there were some sort of psychedelic, mind-altering substances used in that process?
Oh, I wouldn't put it past anyone. I mean, for what it's worth, when you're trying to break down someone's mental
constraints,
defenses, you're going to have to deal with that kind of stuff. But you see, and you see him crying there because he feels he is finally free. And that's like the first time he's ever truly felt free. Although there's a scene that happens later this episode that kind of reminds Bucky, you're still not trusted. And that is, I think, one of the that is a bit of hurt that he gets in this episode later. That is, why I think he is always going to be having some difficulty healing. But anyway, let's get to
something he knows about himself, though, because that's why he's never been compelled to pick up the shield himself, because he knows he has his flaws and they'll always be a part of him. So, I mean, I don't think it's anything that he's not aware of.
I know, but and for those who are wondering, there is a scene where basically they put in the cheat code on Bucky's arm, the Wakandans, when they get into a melee later, and his arm falls off. And he did not know they had that ability to do that. And it immediately opens up this reality, like, okay, they removed, it's sort of like the idea that, they removed the programming, but do I know that they didn't put something else in its place? Am I truly free? Is the question that Bucky... Yeah. See, that's why that gets a little darker from Bucky's perspective. Because that is where...
I still don't know all of me.
Exactly. And will I ever be free? Because am I now just an agent of Wakanda? Even is the White Wolf just now Wakanda's weapon in waiting? And that's the fear for a guy like Bucky, that he could go back to it. And hey, as noble and as trustworthy as the Wakandans are, he also, knows that they're a separate country.
And they're just people. I mean, like, what's his name? Killmonger was once a Wakandan.
Yeah, and to be fair, there is that aspect of it. There's this, when we have the confrontation between Walker and the Dora Milaje, where he says, you're kind of out of your jurisdiction, and the Dora Milaje basically say, our jurisdiction is wherever we happen to find ourselves. Which is, it's an interesting statement, but also a wrong statement. Because essentially that is saying, we can go where we want to, we can do what we want to, in a very imperialistic way. And while there may be truth to it, within the larger diplomatic community, that's not true. They can't go wherever they want to. They can't do whatever they want to do because...
Isn't that sort of speaking to what Zemo was talking about, how, like, power corrupts, and when you have...
it's the idea...
Or super technology, or it always leads to the sense of superiority and that power over others. And no one is immune from it. He's not wrong.
He is not wrong, but, as I always say, that he's not wrong doesn't mean he's right. It's sort of like Thanos, when you realize that there were these positives for the world.
Right. Nor am I implying that. I'm simply saying it's interesting observation that in that he is right. Except Captain America, Steve Rogers was the only one to sort of beat it, I guess. Statistical.
What it is Steve Rogers. And that's the thing. It's like if you actually gave Sam the formula, I think he would be like Steve Rogers. He would be the guy who does stop and ask the question.
Right.
And because that's the thing. It's like when she makes that statement, that the move you make isn't put your hands on the Dora Milaje. It's that you respectfully and politely say, well, I understand your perspective. You must also understand that Wakanda is not an isolated kingdom anymore, and that there is a complex diplomatic structure that has to exist for any of us to safely and responsibly commit our, do what we need to do. You wish to recapture Zemo. Certainly we all have Zemo under control. What the question becomes is, how is Zemo best used for all of our ends rather than getting into this fight? But John Walker's not a diplomat. He is a good soldier. In fact, he is arguably a super soldier. they gave him the shield because they did not have the serum, but he was as close to an actual super soldier as they could find. A guy who could strategize militarily and hold his own in just about any fight, and be the guy who could be that 3 Medal of Honor winning hero that they thought of when they thought of a guy like Steve Rogers. You know, a few episodes ago when Bucky says, "Would you throw yourself on a grenade?" And he says, "Yes, I've done so 4 times." You know, there's this thing I do with my helmet, so it takes the brunt of the blast. But it's, you know, but it's this thing. It's like, yeah, of course I've thrown myself on a grenade. I've been in battle. I've probably been in more battle than, you know, Bucky or Steve had. When you actually think about, like, timelines and how long both of them were active in World War II, and, you know, and you can imagine that there was maybe a bit longer, but then again, Bucky goes into the ice also first, so there's a lot going on in that story where you know, John Walker might really have a lot of actual battle line experience.
But even then, it's like from when you believe that the core of who you are is not good, it's hard to accept a position where you're expected to be that. Like, even the Medal of Honors and all these accolades that he's received, he knows he doesn't deserve them. He knows that they're not actually a reflection of valor or of honor. These were dark things that he did in his mind. He doesn't believe that he deserved them for doing something good.
Well, you know, it's the reality of being a decorated hero. And to put it too simply, I am certain Steve Rogers has made that statement as well, where, you know, in war, we do things that we do not necessarily, we're not proud of, but they were what needed to be done. You know, and the reality is that the problem is that the fact is, when you come home and you get applauded for that thing, because, you know, for what it's worth, yeah, you saved people's lives by taking actions that took other people's lives. Right. And that is that's very hard algebra to work. You know, that is very hard to solve for X for that, because, yeah, you saved lives. You saved every man in your platoon. But, you know, to do that, you had to kill every man in that other platoon who were the enemy and were going to kill you. But then again, you can't say you weren't going to kill them too. You know, it's like the idea of having that moral value to yourself is hard when you've actually been through that war scenario. I imagine, you know, obviously I am not a person who has ever been to war, and so I can't say for certain, but I can imagine from having spent many times in many bars speaking with many people who have been through many things, I feel for their first-person experience on it, and I understand it's a complex thing. So, yeah, that's that. Carly, you know, we see that she does have the extra serums, and again, you know, why you didn't give that serum to the woman who was dying is kind of an open-ended question. Because at least if nothing else,
as much, that's much too valuable an asset that you can generate. And to spend it on a person just to save their life.
Yeah, well, I mean, that goes into that secret question: is, was there another plot line that they had to eliminate from the story? You know, related to some kind of a virus spreading, and that there was this other thing that the Flag Smashers were dealing with, or that someone was dealing with in the story. But as it stands, you know...
the other thing I keep thinking about is Carly compromised? And if so, how is she compromised? Because, I mean, for Walker, it made him more of what he was, a crazy, impulsive, you know, emotionally driven creature. So for Carly, is it that is what's responsible for the degradation of her moral core? Like why she's willing to kill now, because that little bit of whatever was in her is being exploited on steroids now?
Well, and that's the thing. I think, you know, it's too easy to read into it, you know, makes who you are more of what you are. Right. Because as it is, you know, John Walker wasn't a bad person before this, but he was under a lot of emotional pressure about what was going on. He was a soldier who was dealing with a lot of issues, arguably, but had always, as Lamar says in this episode, you're the guy who always makes the right decision.
I think that's a friend trying to tell you something you want to hear. I don't think that's true at all, and I think that's a big issue that John Walker had with it, because much like his medals and much like his accolades and all, he does not think he deserves them. He is a big victim of imposter syndrome. He knows he doesn't belong there, and he's fighting tooth and nail to try to prove that maybe he does to himself. But I don't think he believes it himself. So when someone says something like that to him, he knows he doesn't make the right decisions when it counts, because we've seen him do nothing but make the wrong decision turn after turn here.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think what it is, it's this idea of the combination inferiority-superiority complex, which is a very common thing, where it is that you reject that you are an imposter, but everyone says you're an imposter. It's actually the exact opposite of imposter syndrome, where if people had respected John Walker, and that's the thing, it's a bunch of egos in a room, and all the egos are looking at this guy who they are tearing down for arguably no reason at this point. That's the thing. They could have, at any time, worked with John Walker and said, okay, look, we do our thing, you do your thing. We'll keep you in the loop, you keep us in the loop, but we have to do it our way. But when we reach out to you, you can come in and we can work together and solve this problem together. We can, and for what it's worth, that's probably what Steve would have done. It's like, okay, how do we work together? How do we strategize, since we both have this goal that these flag smashers are problematic for us? How do we solve this overall problem? And then maybe, John Walker wouldn't have felt that Sam was trying to steal his thunder.
Yeah, but our job is not to coddle Captain America. Captain America's job is to show up to work ready to fix stuff. Right?
Well, that's
Captain America. We can't be put in a position of Captain America, and then we have to put it to you.
To put it to you simply, what Captain America's job is to sell war bonds, and Steve Rogers made it something more than that. So from within this structure, it goes into how you approach things, and what it is because of the ego battle between Bucky and Sam, when, quite frankly, he comes in and does help them in fighting the Flag Smashers, even though they all get their butts kicked, the fact that Sam and Bucky are still pushing back at him, and it's kind of the, when Batman 89 came out, there was this kind of thing where Adam West made this point about, they didn't even ask me. They didn't even ask, but more to the point where they didn't even ask me to be a part of it. They didn't recognize that I had this legacy, and, he probably thought he could have done, he probably wanted to do that Dark Knight's Return story, as, the old Batman, but he felt really hurt that no one even asked him. And right now, but at the same time, there's a reason they didn't ask them. Now, right now, Bucky and Sam are maybe feeling that, they didn't even ask us. But at the same time,
neither of them wants it.
Exactly. It's like Sam did give up. Sam could have been being Captain America this whole time. No one was going to Sam saying, give us the shield. It belongs in a museum, or that's government property. Sam was hanging onto the shield, debating what he was going to do, and then decides to give it to the Smithsonian. Now, granted, they were saying, well, why don't you if you're not going to use it, give it to the Smithsonian, and then they do flip it on Sam, and that makes Sam mad, but that's not John Walker's choice. And had Sam said, I'm going to be Captain America, I think it would have been much harder for them to take it away from him had he not done that. But right. That's the thing. I still have a lot of sympathy for John Walker, even after this episode.
Yeah.
Because this episode does have...
Perhaps the the error, or perhaps where my frustration with it lies, is not with John Walker being John Walker, but the people who knew John Walker was John Walker and putting him in this position. That's where the fault lies, and that's where my anger is aimed. You don't put somebody like that in this position. If you wanted a puppet, you put a puppet in that position. This guy's not a puppet. You know this for a fact.
Yeah.
Right? Why put him there? I think it was bad management to pick this guy to be Captain America.
Yeah, it's a very basically it's a rule by committee. And it's honestly not too different than how John Walker got to be Captain America in the first place, where there was this whole debate and there was this question of, who is this guy? How do we find someone who can live up to it? And, and they do point out, that this guy, he actually is apparently very intelligent, that he scores off the charts on his IQ tests, But then again, that doesn't mean he has a high emotional intelligence. It just means that
and I've
he's
got
really
to
good at
imagine
solving problems.
They have psychiatrists on staff there, like somebody who's they didn't see this coming? Come on now.
Well, but again, it's in the moment. That's the thing. It's not so much that he didn't pass the psych eval. It's that he's not returning. And it's sort of what happens with cops.
And it's not, well, I don't think it's about the psych eval. It's about just looking at his history. His history was a guy who had done what he was asked to do, done it well, earned his medals for what it's worth, and probably was very stable in the moment. I don't think that he was. I think he's one of those loose cannons where you apply it properly, and he has the gumption and the ambition to do things that are only implied and not implicitly ordered for him to do.
Yeah.
So that kind of guy you can use, and he's going to do things that you can't order him to do, and that's the kind of guy he is, and that's why he gets the job done, and that's how he gets the job done. To know that, and then to put the guy in this position, I think is really short-sighted.
Although I suppose there is the counter-argument that we've seen the quality of the VA psych department.
Oh, fair enough.
It's... I still feel that poor psychiatrist got a bad rap in this, but...
I don't think she got a bad rap. I think she handled him reasonably well as you can.
Yeah.
But I guess more towards the end of next episode, you sort of...
Yeah.
Great circle
back.
And
that is the thing. So we see that Kylie has this. We see everyone kind of working all the angles, whatever angles they have, and we do see Zemo gets with Turkish Delight, which I'm sorry, the most unbelievable thing in this episode is him saying Turkish Delight is irresistible. I love Turkish Delight. It's kind of like, have you ever had a gummy bear?
Uh-huh.
It's kind of like a gummy bear. It's like a proto gummy bear.
Oh,
it's a little stickier.
Dense.
Yeah, it's a little stickier.
I think I have had one.
Yeah, there's something called the Big Turk. If you go to Canada, you can get that, and it's a chocolate-covered turk. And I will say this, I always prefer things that are chocolate-covered or glazed versus anything covered in powdered sugar. Anything covered in powdered sugar that's just a mess. Confectionery sugar is just lies you tell your tongue at the expense of your shirt. So the whole Turkish Delight, and of course, everyone who's watching this, of course, immediately thinks of, isn't that what the White Queen tempts Edmund with in the Chronicles of Narnia? Which is, of course, what most...
Are they trying to make the point that that's how destitute and poor these people are, that even a Turkish Delight is like a, ooh...
No! It's meant... I think it's meant to show it's a weird European kind of candy.
Gotcha.
And again, like I said, I get the feeling that is meant to be a very direct callback to The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And again, to show Zemo as this manipulator and this person who is tempting children with candy, which works, He presents himself to the children. He gives them candy. They tell them their secrets. Stranger danger, but it's the world in which we live, and they find out where the funeral is being held for Madani, and they rightly decide that Sam's going to go in and try and work this out.
He's got 10 minutes to do it.
10 minutes to, which is like, we have buttons we can press. I can signal you. Yeah. If it goes south, I can push a button. You guys can be there. I'm sure he's got some kind of a radio,
Yeah. I'm literally John Walker telling you his psychological issues. He goes, I have about 10 minutes worth of sitting still in me. Otherwise, my ADHD kicks in, and then my panic attack goes off, and I have to punch something.
Well, exactly. That's the thing. But again, it's from my perspective, I do wonder if people had not been putting the stressors on him of saying you're not Captain America.
That's the job. You can't say, I came to do the job. Don't make me do the job.
Well, no, the job is to do the job. It's sort of like, it's basically, he is a guy who he's used to doing his job, and then he wound up in a very toxic work environment. And you can be good at your job, but if you're in a toxic work environment where everyone is always undermining you.
No, I understand, but you're a grown adult. You're a man. You're a soldier. You're like. No, I mean, train you to the point where, do your job, get it done. You have to deal with different personalities. I don't think that's an excuse, or at least a viable one.
Well, but again, he's also a soldier who's not working outside of a chain of command. And that's the other aspect of it, which is that, yes, in a chain of command, everyone would have a ranking and everyone would have a spot to do. And in that situation, and that's where it comes down to. It's that idea of, if you are willing to be on the team, and we're going to call him Captain America, he would probably be a lot more willing to let you pitch an argument and follow it through than if you say, we're doing it this way.
Yeah, but they're like, you do whatever you have to do. We're going to be over here doing our thing. Stop bothering us. If you're so big.
No, because they both have to deal with Kylie Morgenthau. They both have to bring Kylie Morgenthau in.
But we have our way of doing it. You have your way of doing it. Go do it. Why are you jumping? Okay, because we found out where she is.
Well, no, because they're specifically telling him he can't go in there, guns a-blazing.
Right.
Smashing all the flag smashers at a funeral.
Right.
And arguably they're making a great argument to him. And this is my thing. I think that if it had been Sam and John and Lamar, I think Sam, John, and Lamar could have triangulated it in a way to make it work. I think Bucky
or
being
Sam,
there,
Bucky, and Lamar.
No, because Bucky, to me, Bucky is the bad wheel in this. Bucky is the guy who is always pushing at everyone because Bucky doesn't want to accept that other people. Bucky just doesn't like people because Bucky really hates himself. And that's the thing. It's like, I think Lamar and Sam both can occupy this really positive place where they can look at things and negotiate and talk to their kind of high-strung partners.
Right.
They can be the cool water on the high-strung partner. They can be the Riggs to their Murtaugh. Or
right.
Murtaugh
now, if even Lamar, the guy who loves you so much, he's willing to lie to you and tell you make good decisions, is telling you, hey, buddy, this is a bad decision.
Again, I think Lamar actually does believe in John Walker. I don't believe that was false. I think that within their structure, his decisions have always been good. And the problem is that because he's not in that structure anymore, they're not in a unit anymore.
Right. And somebody should have known better than to put him in this position.
They should have given him a whole. Honestly, they should have given him his whole howlers. Because in the books, he actually has there's actually 3 people in his group, and they had right wing, left wing, and Battlestar, or the Bold Urban Commandos. If they'd even done that storyline, and you had just the 4 people with Captain America. That might have actually been a much more viable option.
If we have to make these consolations and ideas, then that's not the candidate for us.
Yeah, well, and fair enough. But then again, there probably isn't a candidate for us,
Oh, yes,
that's kind of maybe the point.
Right.
What?
No, yes, there is, though. It's Sam.
Well, yeah, Sam Wilson, but he didn't want it. That's the thing. Right. It's like, again, it gets down to this idea that if Sam had wanted it, yes.
And it's the same thing, Sam at the end watching, John Walker do his thing. It reminded me of Spider-Man and Uncle Ben. You know, it's like you have this power and you have the responsibility to bring it to bear. Otherwise, bad things will happen. Inaction is just as bad as being the bad guy.
Exactly. And to get to that point, so essentially, in this moment after the funeral, Sam almost has Kylie he has her on the ledge, has her coming in. And that's when John breaks in, because his 10 minutes are up. And, you know, that's when it all goes south, because it's, you were just delaying me to have your backup show up. It's like, no, my backup was waiting out there the whole time, you know, which is not a good answer, but it's just the reality. It's like, you know, and, you know, at that same time, Kylie is the one who is also very unstable. And we see that because this is where she's like, you know, these people are just road bumps to my goal, you know. I'm just doing what I need to do. And it is bad. It is bad, and they should all feel bad. But, you know,
the other thing that's interesting to me is we have pretty decent modern technology. I think if their first thought would have been like, we can still save him, they probably could have saved him, but they're just like immediately giving in to like sadness and no.
Lamar?
Yeah, like they've been able to
Lamar's
save people in worse situations.
You don't know the level of the damage.
That's what I'm saying. We don't know. Let's at least find out. You know, there's always a hope, but nobody had that thought. It was just like, okay, we've decided he's gone.
Well, what it is they're in the middle of a firefight, and
I know, but everybody stopped, and they're like, I think we messed up.
Well, everybody ran.
Yeah.
And then you got to go give chase. You can't let, you know, sadly, you can't let your fallen comrade mean that they go on avenge because you're, you know, when you don't have the ability to assess that, and what it is his heart stopped, because we do see that he does check for a pulse. His heart stopped, he's dead, and when Lamar dies, at the hands of Kylie Morgenthau, the other guy was holding Cap back. Right. So you say, when he says, it wasn't me, well, it kind of was you. You know, to be fair, and that's the thing, it's like, everyone's like, he was just an innocent. It's like, well, no, he was the guy holding Cap back. Right. He was the guy who prevented him from saving Battlestar.
And not incidentally, like that was the intention in holding Cap back.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, and for what it's worth, all the jokes about all the knives, the Flag Smashers were there to kill everyone in that room. They were not messing around. They were using, I mean, probably could, and did they use guns? They should have used guns, but
they were to mention all the innocent people they killed in the last episode.
Exactly. These people are trying to kill, and you can't say, well, we kill, but, you know, for our cause. Well, except you can, because that's what everyone who kills for any cause is. Every cause often has people killed.
I think the offense that is inexcusable here is not the fact that he killed the guy, but the fact that he was so emotionally wrapped up that he didn't realize the broader implications of his actions in that moment, that how this makes the U.S. looks, how this makes our power structure looks, how this makes the right of the GRDC to come in and be able to have the authority to do the things that they're doing, how that makes it look, how it radicalizes everybody else to join this now to say, oh boy, the symbol of America, Uncle Sam himself came down here and is just killing poor people that are giving us medicine. Right? You allow that narrative to be, that you don't have that foresight in that moment, that you're not able to fight your emotions and manage them to a level that you can make good decisions. That's the mess up that I think is inexcusable here.
Yeah, and that is where, again, as you said, that's why John Walker is not a good man for this job, because he is not thinking on that level. And though, you know, that's always that secondary aspect of all things. When you talk about the super soldier serum, and for what it's worth, I don't believe Nagel's super soldier serum is a good super soldier serum.
Right.
I think Nagel is ignoring
the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
Or Johnson & Johnson's. Yeah, but, you know, it is this idea that, you know, the guy, Nagel, is so certain of his own intelligence. He's like, I did what no one else did, and I did it without all the gadgets and things, it's like, did you not think that those might be important? I mean, what exactly did you create? Because we do see, again, I think Kylie Morgenthau might have been a Steve Rogers with the proper serum. I think John Walker might have been a Steve Rogers with the proper serum. I think that if you can control for who this person is, control for the environment, these people could have been the right candidates.
Yeah, but you could say that about anybody. You could say Jeffrey Dahmer would have been a nice young man if he, but at some point you got to.
Well, maybe he would have. If he had
on them.
It's sort of the idea that if you can go back in time and you can kill Hitler, or you can make sure that his childhood is less abusive.
Right, I understand, but those
what does more good for the world?
Fantasies of an ideal world, like trying to ignore what the real world really is. That's all. Yeah. That is the impetus behind these kind of thoughts. It's like at some point you have to deal with what's in front of you and say we got to make the right decision, not lament how it was my fault he hit me in the face. I shouldn't have talked back to him. That's all this is.
Yeah, and without a doubt, John Walker made the wrong decision, and John Walker is throughout this entire presentation the wrong person for the job. And as you'll see the memes that do the comparison where every time someone asks who Steve Rogers is, he just says he's Steve Rogers or he's a kid from Brooklyn. He never introduces himself as Captain America. Like the only time he actually does is when he's doing the PSA. Right, and he's like, "Hi, I'm Captain America," and so but to give the straight dick to the kids, and it's a meme.
Okay, oh, man.
But just the idea of just giving that honest truth to the kids, rapping with the kids is my chair backwards. 23 skidoo. But but that's the only time you ever see Steve Rogers do that is when he's doing those PSAs, which goes back to that old gag when he was a propaganda tool and he was doing his little marching with the film version of the Howlers before the Howlers even were a thing. So that's that's a fun way to look at it, is like he is obsessed with the rank and he sees Captain America as a rank.
Right.
And he expects that rank has privilege. That rank demands respect from those without the rank because that's the chain of command.
But that's the main flaw. He's looking at it from the wrong perspective. The rank also brings responsibility. What is your responsibility to the people you are, enlisted to serve? What is it? He's not thinking from that perspective at all. He's simply thinking, gimme, 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 gimme. This is what I'm owed. Well, you got to earn it. Put it. So I don't think at a very base level of a person's thinking and their heuristics and how they make decisions, I think he's got a bad batch of code in there.
Yeah, I think you're probably right on that. All right. So that poor guy who, always thought it was great, Captain America as a concept when he read the comic books and his grandpa fought Nazis and,
Yeah, but you're talking about the Flag Smasher, right?
Yeah, the Flag Smasher, because that's the one who dies, the one who's...
Yeah, no, I understand that, but, how much were you really a fan? How much were you a Hulkamaniac if, you're doing bad things out here, not taking your vitamins, not saying your prayers, Hell
yeah, I mean, that's the counter argument, but then again, it goes to that basic misinterpretation of the superhero. Is the superhero the man who is selfless and gives, or is he the man who punches the hardest and punches the people you want punched?
Right, and then says, bring on the applause. Exactly. Where's the applause?
Yeah, exactly. It is Ted DiBiase versus Hulk Hogan. If you're the Hulkamaniac and you're just fighting for the kids at home, or you Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, just going to buy the belt, bribe Andre, and, ruin my childhood. And that's my truth there. If your childhood wasn't ruined during your actual childhood, I don't want to hear how anything is ruining your childhood. Some of us were there, man. Some of us were there.
For me, it was when they killed Optimus Prime.
Oh, yeah, that was a bad one, too.
That was a rough one.
But you know what? It was a rough death, but, he passes on the mat. See, I could handle Optimus Prime because, hey, man, that's the cost of war. That is battle, that is death. And, the matrix of leadership had passed from person to person. And much like Sam Wilson, did not believe he truly was worthy of the matrix of leadership. But Optimus knew, and Cap knew. And despite all of your reticence, Sam, you were the one that was supposed to take the matrix of leadership. So there you go. Okay. Any final thoughts?
Didn't get any Isaiah Bradley in this episode, right?
No, just in mention, just in passing. Isaiah's next week. And that's a whole other box. A box from Wakanda to unpack. So, Mozz, any final thought before we call it a day?
No, this is a really good episode, a really deep episode. Some great.
They're all good episodes, and it is great that I love and that's the thing. It's like even if you want to say, there was another plot and there's some stuff that they had to fix in post. It's like, yeah, but it holds together.
Yeah, what is there? I think is worth it.
Yeah, I think that much like WandaVision, I think that there was a lot of stuff that got left out because of the situation where they really couldn't expand or explore it. And they were smart. They didn't try to force it in. They said, no, we can't do it right, so don't do it wrong. Just do what we can do right, And I think they're doing everything right. And with the nature of the MCU, it only leaves them doors that they can walk through some other time. It only leaves them open threads that they can explore further. So it only gives us more variables to play with. Exactly. All right. So I hope everyone enjoyed listening to this podcast. If you didn't enjoy listening to this podcast, it might not be me and Mozz who are giving you just 100% quality entertainment. It might be that you're using poor quality headphones. And to that, I say go to tweakedaudio.com. Just use the coupon code Southgate. Get high quality headphones at a fraction of retail costs, delivered to your home even. So that'd be good. Likewise, you can use that same coupon code Southgate upon checkout when you go over to hunterkiller.com. Stimulate your brain with a little mystery to solve. You and your friends, or just you by yourself, because you're just that smart, can help Michelle Gray solve that cold case, and that'll be awesome. And the coupon code saves you money on that as well. Likewise, if none of that interests you, or even if it does, go down to our show notes, click on the Amazon link, go over to Amazon, buy anything you like. It costs you nothing. It helps out the show. And while you're there, check out Pod Life, the book written by the Southgate community, of Southgate podcasts, Southgate Media. Read about why we podcast, and you can get that both in a hard copy for after the apocalypse and a digital version that you can just flip through now before the end of all things. All right, Mozz. If anyone does any of that and they want to talk to you about that or anything else going on in Falcon and the Winter Soldier or anything else in the streaming universe, how can they find you?
Oh, they can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And, of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email, whether we're Mozz and Poz once did at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. Of course, follow me on the Twitter as I live tweet nothing at the moment, but eventually maybe Powerpuff Girls with Chloe Bennett at Charlie Esser. That's CHARLIE. Yes, SCR. Look for the two E's in the middle.
For quality. Bing.
Thank you, Mozz. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of Nuff Said. We hope that you have been enlightened by our wisdom. And always remember, when the GRC comes to relocate you, say no you relocate. Enough said.